It's been 6 months since I bought a pair of the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, and while I don't think they're the buds everyone should get, I'm going to take you through who I think these buds are for, and I'll answer some of your questions along the way. Now, the first thing I like about these buds are their sound quality. Overall, considering you can now get these buds for $120 to $170 depending on the retailer, and I've left purchase links in the description so you can check whatever their current price is, considering that, they sound very good, especially when paired with a Samsung Galaxy device. That's because Samsung uses a proprietary codec called SSC, which stands for Samsung Seamless Codec, for encoding and decoding 24-bit audio compared to the normal 16-bit audio used by other codecs. And that tech, paired with the drivers found in these buds, gets you a really nice, well-balanced sound that at times can be punchy with a really nice wide sound stage. Now, I got a ton of questions on how these buds sound compared to the brand new Sony WF-1000 XM5s. I still prefer the XM5s over the Buds 2 Pro because of their better bass, fit, and substantially better battery life at 8 hours of ANC playback versus the 5 hours you get with the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. When you compare the Sonys to these buds, the Sonys help identify two shortcomings with the Buds 2 Pro's sound quality. Mainly, they lack a bit in dynamic range compared to the Sonys, and their bass is also a bit lacking, but that's likely due to their ear tip design, and let me explain why. With both the Sony WF-1000 XM5s as well as the Link Buds S, which I've also reviewed, Sony uses ear tips that go further into your ear canal, creating a better seal, which often nets you better bass performance. Overall, I'd put the noise cancellation of the Buds 2 Pro on par with buds like the Link Buds S or Pixel Buds Pro. It's good, but not best in class, which is a shame because I really like the drivers Samsung put in these buds. If they just had a bit better sound isolation, I think they'd be one of the best buds on the market. Now, thankfully, you can somewhat adjust the EQ of these buds, but the EQ feature that Samsung implemented for them was not what I was expecting. Samsung only gives you a few select options. The dynamic one was the closest to the adjustments I wanted to make, but it was still a bit too bass heavy. I don't know why Samsung just doesn't let you have a full EQ like the buds from Sony as well as the Pixel Buds Pro, which I've also reviewed. Now, related to audio is another feature that Samsung marketed with these buds, and they marketed quite heavily, and that's called 360 audio, which can make it sound like speakers are all around you, and it uses head tracking technology to make it sound like the sound coming from your phone is actually coming from where your phone is physically located. To me, this feature, like it is on a lot of Apple products, is mainly a gimmick for earbuds. The only scenario where I've ever found this feature actually worthwhile and useful is when using it with my AirPods Max and my Apple TV 4K when watching content, because in that scenario, the AirPods Max are actually able to reproduce a surround sound environment, and it's quite convincing. For these buds, would I buy them over another brand just for the 360 audio? No. You could still get buds like the Pixel Buds Pro or the new Sony buds and still benefit from Dolby Music through a service like Apple Music. Though with earbuds in particular, I haven't really found much of a benefit using Dolby Atmos music. Where Dolby Atmos really makes a difference with music listening in my experience, that has been with headphones like the AirPods Max and with speakers, though specifically the Sonos Era 300. A speaker designed from the ground up specifically for Atmos and spatial audio. And I have a long-term review coming out very soon on it, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you want to see that. But in general, with these buds, Atmos sounds fine, though if you enable 360 audio and then you go and enable Dolby Atmos on a service like Apple Music, it actually sounds horrible. I'm assuming it has to be a bug, but with both settings on, songs sound echoey as reverb, it was just added everywhere. It sounds like someone took your phone, started playing music on its speaker, and then chucked it into the world's largest bathroom. Samsung markets the 360 audio feature as being compatible with Dolby Atmos, so I'm not exactly sure how this got so screwed up. And if you've run into that or know what the hell is going on, definitely let me know in the comments. Now, the next thing to look at with these buds is their mic quality, and here's how they sound compared to some of their competition. These are the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. This is how their mics sound. And these are the Pixel Buds Pro. This is how their mics sound. And these are the Bose QC2s. This is how their mics sound. And these are the Sony WF-1000 XM5s. And these again are the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. This is how their mics sound. Let me know down in the comments which one did you think sounded better. When experiencing the transparency mode on these buds, which I have enabled right now, overall I actually think it sounds pretty decent. I can hear my environment very well when I use transparency mode, and when I'm listening to my voice, it sounds clear. The only knock I'd give the transparency mode is when I hear my voice, it sounds still a bit artificial. It's almost like someone turned the gain up a little bit too high on the mics used on the buds, and it just doesn't sound like I'm not wearing buds, which, to be fair to Samsung, is pretty typical in buds in this price range. Another great thing about these buds is their design and case. Overall, I found them to be a pretty comfortable set of buds, though not as comfortable as the Link Buds S. Now for flights, they've been pretty good. I used them on a short haul flight. The noise cancellation was pretty good there. I haven't used them on a long haul flight yet. I don't actually think their battery life would really last the entire flight because their battery life is only rated for 5 hours, which is on the low end when you look at buds. Even buds in this price range, the Pixel Buds Pro, have much better battery life. And while they're comfortable, because the buds are still kind of wide towards the ear tips, I could see how it could still make somebody's ears a bit sore. Also, while I haven't had a problem with them on walks or hikes, for going on a run or going to the gym, you might want a bud design with a stabilizer arc like those made by Beats, Bose, and Google for a more secure fit. And these buds are water resistant. They can actually be submerged up to 30 minutes with their water resistance rating, which is better compared to the higher priced Sony WF-1000 XM5s. Those only have an IPX4 rating, which means they're just splash resistant. Another thing I've come to like about these buds is their case. It's pretty slim, can hold 18 hours of battery, and I love the grippy material Samsung used in the design. Plus, it has wireless charging as the tech gods intended. And because these buds are made by Samsung, you do get some Samsung-specific features with them, like Samsung SmartThings Find, which will show you the location and even give you an audible alarm when you walk away from them, so you don't actually leave them somewhere you don't want to. They have other features like one that can sharpen the sound for phone calls when you're in a noisy environment, auto-switching between Samsung devices, and a gaming mode for minimizing audio delay. They also have a conversation recognition feature that'll lower the volume when you're talking to someone, which is pretty nice. But if you sing along to music, you will likely want to keep that feature off. For playback controls, these are pretty straightforward. You just tap once to play and pause, twice to skip forward, 3 times to skip back. Tap and hold the left bud to cycle through transparency mode and noise cancellation. They have an experimental feature that you can get to within the bud's settings that does allow you to raise and lower the volume using the edge of the earbud. So now let's talk recommendations. Do I recommend the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro? Yes, though I don't think they're the buds for everyone, mainly those who do not have a Samsung phone. If you don't have a Samsung phone, I'd personally shop around a bit, and I'd probably only end up on these buds if they were on just a really good sale. I'd spend more for the Sony WF-1000 XM5s if you want better battery life, noise cancellation, and sound. If you're an Android user and especially a Samsung user and you want a pair of wireless earbuds with great sound, decent battery life, in an ergonomic design, and that has decent noise cancellation, I think these are definitely a buy. And I've left purchase links in the description so you can check their current price or the price of the other buds that I mentioned. If you liked this video and found it helpful, consider giving it a thumbs up, that really helps out the channel, and subscribe to the channel for more reviews on earbuds and smartphones made by Samsung and others, like my review of the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. You can get to that review by clicking on the videos above. For 6 months later, I'm Josh Tedder. Thanks for watching.